ready, I would like to formally introduce everybody to the 2014 second annual DCW Hall of Fame right here in Farmington. Also, you can clap, that's fine. Also later tonight is the 11th annual Honor Cup in Dynamite Championship Wrestling, something that I was lucky enough to go through 3 grueling rounds and defeat JJ Cruz to win just a few years ago. So, the person I'm inducting tonight, I've actually never ever stepped into the ring with one-on-one. I've known him since 2007. I watched his first day in the DCW Pro Wrestling School. And when I looked at him, I said, man, that guy has a body. He's got the body of a pro wrestler. He's got the body of a guy that can go to the top. And then I watched him move in the ring, and I said, this guy's not going anywhere. I looked at it, that's funny, you guys come back. I looked at him and I said, just simple things like running in the ring, or even just walking, everything was so awkward to him. There was a time when this person was in a shell. He didn't have the charisma that a professional wrestler and a sports entertainer like myself needs to succeed in this business. And he was only, unfortunately, able to train once a week, which is very hard to become a professional wrestler when you're only training once a week. So everybody looked at him and said, he's not going to make it. He's got the look, but he's just not going to make it. The other guy that he was training with at the time is a guy by the name of the Maple Leaf Machine, KO Storm. Not sure if you've heard of him. KO Storm was training 3 days a week. He was doing stuff off the top one of his first nights in. And I looked at my buddy Chris Wilde and I said, this KO Storm guy is going to go far. And Chris Wilde said to me, yeah, but I still see something in this other cat. And the other cat is a guy by the name of Brandon the Body Rodriguez. And Brandon, everybody said, even myself at the very beginning, he might not do it. He might not make it, but he did. So a few years goes by and we were down the road in Bowers Beach, Delaware, at the Bowers Beach Fire Hall. And Brandon made his debut in DCW by the name of Brandino Cuervo. He was a fun-loving, Spanish body, amazing wrestler by that time period. But he still had a little bit of a shell. There was still a little bit of him that couldn't break through to what we needed in DCW as a company and what he needed to become a successful professional wrestler. So there was one night where he fought a guy by the name of the Honorable RGP. And following that match, someone brought Brandino Cuervo a bottle of tequila into the ring. Brandino proceeds to start drinking the bottle of tequila as if it's a bottle of water, like this, and proceeds to get drunk in a matter of 2 minutes. Brandino Cuervo then exudes the amount of charisma and everything else because of the tequila, and I saw in him what I knew was a superstar. He came backstage and I said, that's what we need to do. We need to get you drunk before every match. Obviously we didn't do that, but he knew at that point it clicked. It clicked in his head what he needed to do to please you people, to put on a great show. Later that year, Brandon would actually turn his back on the people to join the Gemini Trojans in what would become the Gemini program. He was going to become the first ever Trojan in training. It didn't really work. So Brandon, not liking that, decided, I'm going to look to a guy who's a Grand Slam winner in DCW. I'm going to look to a guy by the name of Mark the Dragonfly Haro who helped train me, and I'm going to look at that guy and I'm going to follow him. I'm going to tag with him. I'm going to do everything he does, and I'm going to succeed and walk in his footsteps because he's a guy that has done a lot in this business, and he's a former Hall of Famer with DCW. So Brandon dubbed himself the Latin Weapon and started teaming with Mark Haro. Unfortunately, after a few months, that tag team dissipated and Brandon was left without anything. He wasn't getting the reactions that he wanted from you guys, and he wasn't putting on the matches that he knew and we knew as DCW that he was capable of. So from there, Brandon said, I don't know what to do. So my best friend, a guy by the name of Chris Wilde, said, let me take him under my wing. let me take Brandon and put him in a group known as the American Male Regime. And in that group, Chris Wilde forced Brandon to once again come out of that shell. Brandon would come out here and cut promos like I am right now, wearing a suit jacket like I am right now, and nothing but this and little tidy trunks. We were forcing him to come out of that shell to put on the best performance he could for all of us, and he did. Brandon went on to win the No Limit Championship that Muddy Waters holds over his shoulder right now. Brandon went on to win the Hardcore Championship, and then dubbing himself the Technical Wrestling Champion because he felt hardcore had no place in wrestling, something I agree with. Brandon then went on to fight in many main events in Hartley, Delaware, clawing and prying and getting to the top of DCW, but still not getting that title. So finally, one night, he fought Andrew Steele, and he hit the body shot in the middle of the ring and pinned him 1, 2, 3 to win the DCW International Heavyweight Championship. And within 30 seconds of him winning, a guy by the name of KO Storm came out and cashed in his championship opportunity and defeated Brandon for the very title that Brandon clawed and worked so hard for so long. So Brandon, in that moment, said, I know what I need to do. I don't need to look to Zach Connor. I don't need to look to Chris Wilde. I don't need to look to Dragfly. I need to look at myself. Brandon looked in himself and found what he needed to do to succeed in this business and succeed in this company, and he did. 6 months later, Brandon regained the DCW International Heavyweight Championship and was putting on the best matches on the card on those nights. Now, January 2010, I was scheduled to face Brandon the Body Rodriguez in a one-on-one match for his heavyweight championship. I suffered a neck injury and was not able to do so. I did not know at that point that I would never have the opportunity again to wrestle him because 1 month later, at the Guts and Glory anniversary show, Brandon told all of us backstage that that was his final night at DCW. His family, who's sitting here tonight, did not know at the time. In fact, one of the matches with KO Storm, Brandon's own father jumped the guardrail and attacked KO Storm, which was pretty badass. And it was on that night that Brandon the Body Rodriguez retired as heavyweight champion when he defeated KO Storm. It was one of the best matches I've seen in this company's history, and since. And Brandon walked away and everybody said, oh, he'll be back, he'll be back, he'll be back. His own family said, oh, you can't go, you put so much time into this, you're finally the guy, you're finally the champion. And he said, no, I have other things in my life, personal things that I need to do and I want to do, and he did. And Brandon has never stepped foot back in this ring from February 2010 until tonight. After many years, I finally was able to convince him to accept an honor that he worked so hard for and deserves more than so many people. So what I'd like to do right now is to show a little video on my friend and on the guy that I'm inducting tonight, Brandon the Body Rodriguez. in 4.5 years to step inside of a DCW building, inside of a DCW ring, and in front of all of you people, Brandon the Body Rodriguez.
When we first started in this business, we put our blood, sweat, tears. We loved wrestling. And I saw that look in your eye, the same look you had when I first met you. That's why we got a close bond together. That's why we became good friends. And out in the back there today, I saw that same look in your eye. Like you got something in the basement still. Like you got something to prove. So I don't want to predict anything, but I think you got one more match left in you. Brandon, congratulations. You deserve it. I'm proud of you.
Well, first, I'd like to thank both of these guys. I'd like to thank Taylor Storm coming out and saying a few words. And I'd also like to thank my inductor coming from NXT. And for most of you who know what NXT is WWE's developmental promotion and program. And I definitely appreciate Zach the Ripper Connor coming all the way up from Florida to induct me. Thank you. Thank you both. I said, right now I'm lost for words, like they were saying. It's been about 4 years since I last stepped into a wrestling ring. And I'm sure, the big question in everybody's, mind, and a lot of the guys, sitting ringside was, where have I been since 2011? First of all, like Zach was saying, I left for, personal reasons. I wanted to get away from the business for a while. I wanted to, do other things, pursue fitness, which has always been a big interest. And, fitness is a huge part of, my success in wrestling. And then a few months later, after I was gone, I guess when you stop doing something, you stop, taking all these hard hits in here, you start to really feel it. And I've had a few, issues with my neck and everything I've been dealing with for the last couple of years. To break it down, I've got 2 herniated discs, some compressed discs, and a pinched nerve on my left side. But it hasn't stopped me from hitting the gym. I needed time away to heal, and also in 2012, I got married to the love of my life, sitting right there. So yeah, I've just been staying to myself, and a lot of guys I haven't really contacted and talked to in years. When I said I was done with wrestling, I stuck to my word, and I went to do other things. And I'm sure the other question on everybody's mind is the possibility of me returning to wrestling. I've been asked this several times, are you coming back? My doctor's orders are for me to not have any not participate in anything high impact. But at the same time, I'm still in great physical condition. And like I said, I was actually tearing it up at the gym today. Deadlifted 405, so like I said, we'll see. You never know what the future's going to hold. One day I might decide to step back in here, go after the DCW International Heavyweight title. I mean, in wrestling, you never know what's going to happen. But anyway, moving on. I'd like to talk about some of the influences in my career. Influences, people, important people in my career. First off, on the list, I'd like to start with Chris Wilde, who we actually slaved away in a warehouse together, and he's actually the one responsible for introducing me to DCW, and also getting me involved in one of the coolest groups in DCW history, the American Male Regime. And Chris Wilde, I really looked up to him. He helped give me direction in my career. He helped give me charisma. He got me pointed in the right direction I needed to go to really start succeeding. And I'd also like to next talk about my head trainer, Mark the Dragonfly Haro, which Mark has an incredible eye for talent. And in me, I had the body, but going in the ring, I suck. And Mark was that guy that he could manipulate my mind and body, to do what was necessary to work well in this ring. So, Mark's not here today, but if you're watching Mark, I just want to say thank you for training me. You were a huge help in getting me where I needed to go. And I'm also going to mention the Gemini Trojans. I don't know how many people remember the Gemini Trojans, but to best describe them, they are the craziest, hard-hitting twins I've ever seen. And they helped me out a lot with the training. And I also want to thank Josh Trojan for snatching out my contact in the middle of a match. So, I had to wrestle the rest of the match, could barely see. So thank you for that, Josh. Now I'm going to move on to Andrew Steele. Steele and me actually go way back. I actually knew Steele back in high school. And it's funny how years later wrestling brought us together, because we weren't really friends in high school, and we really didn't know each other. But Steele was actually the first guy I debuted against in DCW. I actually won my first No Limits title and heavyweight title from Steele. So, I'd like to mention also another member of the American Male Regime, RGP. We teamed up with several times and won the tag team titles. We traveled on the road together. And he also introduced me to another promotion I worked for quite a few years called Old Time Wrestling up in Dynamite, New Jersey, which I'm going to lead to. I'm going to mention the promoter, Ed Atlas. He is actually the one that came up with my name after all the gimmicks, Brandino Cuervo, the Latin weapon. He just come up to me one day, he said, I'm going to call you to buy. And I was like, okay, cool. So I actually did learn a lot from that promotion. Ed Atlas was a really crazy promoter, and I learned, let's just say I learned how to deal with every bad situation you could possibly be in a wrestling show. He threw everything at me, but you know what? That helped me become better in OTW, that helped me become better in DCW and other places I wrestled. And I also got to meet a couple guys that wrestled in DCW in the past. My good friend Bray Wolf and Andy Bivens. Right. And another guy, I got to mention that I haven't actually not seen him since 2010. Let's see, I got this right, guys. Bazooka Joe. Joe was another friend of mine that we trained and traveled on the road with. I actually wore his tights for way too long. Way too long. They were so faded out. He came out to the school a lot to help me, to get better in the ring. And, he was a great workout partner to have. And now this next guy I'm going to mention, it's kind of a sensitive subject for the company, but feelings aside, I'm going to mention him anyway. A guy by the name of Katori. I had a lot of great matches with this guy. He was another guy that we had great chemistry with. He was the one I actually won a hardcore belt from and turned it into the technical title. And he's the only guy I can say in my lifetime that I've actually hit with a Christmas tree. I'd like to mention Blaine Hudson, aka Scotty. Another guy that I trained with at several practices. I like to call him my white luchador. And I actually defended the heavyweight title against him, which I thought was an awesome match. It was a great title defense against him. A couple other people. Trixie Lynn, who's not here anymore. I trained with her a lot, and I gotta say, Trixie, if you ever watch this, sorry for all the messed up swinging neck breakers I gave you. Sorry for the tears and everything. Yeah, it was pretty bad. And Big Country also, I trained with him a lot. And then this next character I'm going to talk about is pretty bizarre. Goes by the name of Romeo Athens. We kind of had a love relationship, thing going. He was also another part of the American male regime. He's the guy that, knocked me out with a Cuervo bottle, dressed me up in a sombrero, and sat in my lap. But also at the same time, if it hadn't been for him, I wouldn't have had the Jose Cuervo moment, getting a little bit drunk to loosen me up in here. And next, I'd like to talk about my inductor, Zach the Ripper Connor. And what can I say about Zach Connor? The first time I met this guy, I thought he was a dick. And 7 years later, he still is. Just kidding, Zach. I got a lot of love for you. But one of the reasons I chose him to induct me, because even with his busy schedule, he still took, not that other guys weren't looking for me too. Zach still took time out of his busy schedule with NXT to contact me and to bring me back home to DCW. And he was a big influence in why I'm being inducted into the Hall of Fame tonight. Getting to know Zach, by talking to him on the phone, I've talked to this guy on the phone longer than I've talked to any female in my entire life. We just talked about the business for hours. You know, that was a time I think we really bonded. We got to know each other, and I think we got really close. You know, towards the last year. Before I left. We're the same age. We got the same memories. Zach's made references in front of guys like the Gemini Trojans about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and everyone's looking at each other not knowing what the hell he's talking about, but I knew what he was talking about. And Zach, he has a passionate love for wrestling, which is another thing I love about him. And as he said, he's one of the major players in the company that I've never had a one-on-one match with. One story I'd like to share with traveling with him and Chris Wild, one night stand. On a story, actually, you were with us too, Gail. Actually, all four of us went up to Reading, Pennsylvania for a show. And, I stopped to take a leak at a Wawa. And, me and Gail, we went in. We came out, and I'm looking for the car, and I'm like, where the hell's the car? So, and I look over by the gas pumps, and I see Zach and Chris over there laughing. So they waved me over there, like, get in the car real quick. So, and then next, KO Storm comes out, and then we're all laughing. So yeah, I got to fall, me and him got to be a victim of a one-night stand prank. And last, I'd like to talk about, one of my closest friends, in the business, KO Storm. Like he said, we've trained, we've traveled, we debuted the same show. He is a naturally gifted athlete, and we've always had great chemistry. He's that guy that I could just read his thoughts in the ring. We could just read each other. He knew what I was going to do. I knew what he was going to do. We've never really been on the same side of the fence. We've kind of always been on the opposite sides. I've hit him with a Cuervo bottle. He stole my heavyweight title in 2 minutes, probably even that. He's beat me and my dad up. He cut my hair off. But you know what? 2 of my best matches were my last show and my final matches, which I think were, incredible matches. And if there were any guy I could choose to retire me, it would be him. And like I say, KO, I got a lot of love for him, a lot of respect for him. And I got one quick story to share about KO, which, another thing that you were riding with us too, Zach, back in my OTW show. It was me, KO, Zach, and RGP. And KO Storm goes flying through a toll booth. And then what do we know? The cops come up, pull us right over. The cops coming up looking at us all funny because a bunch of big wrestlers all packed into this small vehicle. And, RGP and Zach Connor are having a bet. Zach said, if you want to get a ticket, RGP's like, yes, he will. And what happened? He got a ticket. So, anyway, I want to make a reference to, if you can't tell by my music, I'm a huge, fan of the 80s hair bands. And that reference is, you don't know what you got until it's gone. I have a lot of great respect and admiration for pro wrestling. I think it's the coolest gig in the world, which can lead to a great career. And since I've been gone, there's nothing like walking through that curtain with a screaming crowd and wrestling in front of a screaming crowd. That's just an indescribable feeling that, there's just nothing in my life that, can touch that. And, I've always been a big fan of WWE and wrestling since I was a child. One of my favorites, The Undertaker. I think he's got the coolest gimmick ever in wrestling. Still pissed about the streak. And anyway, you know, I see a lot of new faces, you know, a lot of familiar faces, a lot of guys that I wish were still here. That, you know, I got to meet a few months ago. And I had one guy ask me, he said, you know, what's your advice, you know, for all the, you know, for the new students and stuff? And it's 3 things. All I'm going to say is work hard, be respectful in the locker rooms, and don't walk around with an ego. Because there's always somebody out there that's bigger and better. Like I said, you know, one of the most talented kids I got to watch was J.J. Cruz. I actually watched your video against Corey Castleman. You did incredible stuff. JJ showed me a great deal of respect, so I want to thank him for that. You know, I was worried about, you know, coming back. Would anybody remember me? You know, he knew who I was. But now I'm going to get to the closing of this. You know, I got to say, I'm honored as hell to be here tonight. I would like to thank, you know, David Klein and DCW for choosing me to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. DCW will always be my home. And I want to thank also everybody who puts together, you know, sets up the ring, who puts, you know, the music, the lights, everything together. And I'd also like to have my family right here stand up. And I just want to say thank you guys for your support. I want to thank my beautiful wife for her support. Now, like I said, I thank the good Lord. Sorry, guys.
Thank you, brother.
I want to thank the fans, you know, everybody for coming out and watching the DCW show. So I got that to get myself together for a minute, my minute. You know, I want to, you know, like I said, I wish my, someone special in heaven, I wish could be here. My baby niece, who passed away in 2012, I wish she could be here. But anyway, you know, like I said, I know God's up in it. And heaven watching down on her, and, you know, watching her, and she's looking down on us. I didn't want to cry, guys. But the last thing I want to say is thank you for letting me live my dream of being a professional wrestler. You know, this is, like I said, I love this. I love wrestling. I would never stop loving wrestling. I will always be a fan of wrestling. And I want to try something out. This is my tribute to the Ultimate Warrior. And I want to say, bodies, talk to me. This is it. Thank you.